There he is. That's Parker. I'm Pugs. We do this every Monday through Thursday at 9 p.m. Parker, go ahead, take it. I left my drink on the other side of the room.
Oh, that is totally unacceptable. All right, I need someone to start paying attention here. Pugs isn't listening. He wears that Nirvana shirt once a week, and if he does, I think he has like 7 shirts that he just rotates on this show. So can we start keeping track of that? Can someone keep a little inventory? Because that would be nice. All right, he's back. Stop talking about him.
Yeah. All right. Let's see here. Excuse me. Hi, Whitney. Hi. Boy, who's All right, come on, everybody, pull it in. Grab your beanbag chairs. Circulate into the chat room. Hold hands. Keep the best. Who is? Oh, I thought that was E down there, but no, it says. Who are you? You're Vincent Van Gogh today. Is that who I'm looking at?
Yes.
That's so great. Hi, Clint Badass. Nice to meet you.
Well, Clint Badass is so much better. There it is. What does Clint Badass even mean?
Why is it a contest? Why did you all of a sudden take it to a contest? Well, what's that? What's going on in your head?
Everything's a contest.
Nothing is a contest.
And I won.
Oh my God, you surf the construct, don't you? That's what you are. You are a joiner. Hey, we're all joiners. And by the way, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. Follow us. Make sure that any alert that we do, you get told about it. I'm like, it's like we're waiting on E. So, I don't know if he's going to show up or not. So should we just jump right in? What do you got, James? You're chomping at the bit.
I am kind of chomping at the bit, but I don't want to start it and then have to restart it in 3 minutes when Animal shows up. So you're right. And plus, let's wait for a few more people to get in here. People are just kind of hearing their alerts and turning it on. I don't know if that's for the people who watch it after the fact, don't watch it live. So, I don't know. Is he coming? Do we know he's coming?
I assume he is. I don't know. I mean,
all right. Well,
you mean that much?
I do not have the patience of a Jedi, so I'm giving about one more second here. I'm gonna. All right, let's go into the first thing then.
Sorry, I got something. I would help you out here, but I've got something stuck in my throat and I can't get rid of it. It's like I'm a cat with a hairball. So normally I'd be right there at your side bailing you out of this, but go ahead, James. I need a second.
Can you still listen to this in the meantime? Okay, that's a coughing Nirvana shirt. You're not living up to the title Clint Badass.
No, I know. I heard you mention my Nirvana shirt. Mm-hmm. Can I tell you that this is the shirt that I'm wearing right now? This is the lamest shirt on earth. Not so much because of the band it talks about. It's a great band. But it's lame because this freaking shirt has been sold at Target for about 10 years now. And every dad at a kid's softball game from coast to coast on any given Saturday or Sunday can be found at least 1 or 2 dudes wearing this. I know it because I have walked into places wearing this shirt and then immediately been like, oh, Jesus, we all shop at Target, don't we? See, we think we're being unique and we think we're speaking to some form of our individualism and our youth and all of that. But in reality, we just all shop at Target. Now, that's not to say that there aren't cool Nirvana shirts out there. You go online, you Google Nirvana concert shirts, you'll find some really cool ones online. Not these ones. These are the lame Target ones. Let me give you an example of how lame this is. Recently, over the weekend, they released some video of a year or so ago when Ron DeSantis, governor of Florida, was prepping for a debate against Donald Trump. And the person portraying Trump in this little exercise was Matt Gaetz. And Matt Gaetz was wearing this very same shirt. So it's not a cool guy shirt. And I apologize for wearing it. James, the floor is yours.
We go to CNN, where, some people are concerned about discrimination. My response is always discrimination over what? Racial discrimination?
Okay.
Bad.
Good.
Discrimination against someone for their nationality or some other immutable trait that they have no control over? Bad. Emil, welcome. You're just in time because this is such a great topic for you. However, discrimination based on someone being the size of a small hippo, I believe in some circles is legit.
Okay,
So we
so
go to
hold on. So
CNN.
what you're saying is although you understand the seriousness of discrimination in the many forms that it takes, when it comes to discriminating against overweight people, you think that's okay. Did I interpret that properly?
It can be okay in some situations,
Okay.
yes.
All right.
Not just blanket like all fat people are less than and they don't deserve their full complement of human rights. But you'll see how it comes up in the story, and you're probably guessing correctly what you think this is
All right.
going to be
Now,
about.
now,
I teach around 17 classes in a typical week, and it's what I love doing.
Jennifer Portnick is a veteran fitness instructor, but she still remembers the time she applied for her first job at Jazzercise in San Francisco.
I was invited to go to tryouts where the regional manager is kind of behind you, watching you dance. And after class, she told me, "You're going to be fantastic. There's just one thing. I want to get a picture of you with your arms out." And she sent that picture to the corporate offices.
She did not get the job. Instead, she got this letter. She had, quote, all the qualifications for a potential trainee, except for the fitness level required.
This doesn't make any sense, number one, and it's wrong.
Portnick wanted to take action, and a San Francisco law, one that bans height and weight discrimination, allowed her to do just that.
They were going to change the rule that said you have to look leaner than the public in order to be a jazzercise instructor. If it hadn't been for the law, I'm sure that I wouldn't have had the outcome that I did.
That was 22 years ago. Since then, just 5 cities and 1 state have similar laws.
There is no legal path if you are being discriminated based off your weight or your height.
And that's why Councilman Sean Abreu introduced a bill making it illegal to discriminate against height and weight in housing, employment, and public accommodations in New York City. He says people treated him differently after he gained 40 pounds during the pandemic.
It's not only protecting people in the workplace from this or in getting apartments, but it's also about changing the culture and how we think about weight.
All right, I got to stop it here because we are at the halfway point, and this is about to take a little bit of a turn where I'm giggling through all this. This has been an hour and a half of comedy for me. This is like someone dug up a Kids in the Hall bit from 20 years ago that just didn't pass the test of time.
Let me make sure that I'm following this correctly, and maybe you have a question as well. So what we just saw was the tear-jerking story of a woman who a long time ago tried to become a fitness personality or representative of the Jazzercise brand. And although she had all the fitness qualifications, certificates and whatever that is, and the attitude was good, she did not look herself fit. At least the company decided that you do not look fit. And you are, more than just ringing up people at a cash register. You're an ambassador of the brand. So do I have that right? And they said, we can't hire you because you do not fit the brand. Right?
Yeah, if she wanted to get a job as an aerobics instructor at a gym, and the Jazzercise franchise.
And she didn't look like she was in shape. She went home, right? That's what she said. She said she went home.
Bro, she looks like this, and she has been a fitness instructor for the last 22 years. Imagine how bad she looked before 22 years of being a fitness instructor.
Well, I'd like to think she looked a little better, but it's like a bald barber. Hey, my grandpa said that to me once. Never get your hair cut by a bald barber. They don't care.
Yeah. Like my grandmother said, don't trust a skinny chef.
I would certainly not join a workout class that was being run by somebody that wasn't in shape. But E, maybe you've got a different take.
No, I mean, I looked at her and I was like, okay, but no.
So you're running a fitness, you're launching a new fitness brand, and you're putting franchises in every city. And she says, I want to run the Dallas one. What do you say?
No.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm guessing that's a problem, and I guess that makes us racists. James, please explain how.
Yeah. Well, not racist, but the word here, discrimination, has been so twisted in the narrative in its use that we associate all forms of discrimination with something wrong. Because it used to be discrimination was racial discrimination. That's what you were talking about when you mentioned discrimination. And then there was other forms of discrimination that started being labeled, like homophobia ethnic discrimination and things of that nature, gender discrimination. But not all discrimination is bad. Discrimination is simply a synonym for the word judgment. And no, you're not supposed to judge people based on their skin color or immutable traits. But being fat is not an immutable trait. Being fat, number one, tells me that you've made a series of bad decisions and continue to make them. If you're 300 pounds, that means you were at 290 and didn't stop. So that doesn't make you a bad person, but it's not like it's out of your control and that's why you're this size. No, it's not the same thing as a skin color or a nationality.
Maybe we need to watch the second half, because all I saw in the first half was a woman who didn't get a job because she didn't check all the boxes required to do the job properly, at least in the eyes of the people.
Yeah, and this is the analog of the Hooters saga.
I did not see any indictment. Hold on, I did not see any indictment in that of all fat people. So
no, there wasn't
one particular case.
All right, so we continue because this next lady's about to piss me off.
Studies have found that weight discrimination is widespread and is comparable to the levels of racial discrimination in the U.S.
This city that I love so dearly is built without my body in mind.
Victoria Abraham testified in support of the New York City bill last month. She is a self-proclaimed fat activist and content creator.
I know I'm fat. That's not a bad thing, though.
Right there.
Yeah.
There's a whole nother minute left, but right there, I just have to pause and let the steam valve release some pressure. It's like, man, that was a lot. That was a lot in the last 30 seconds to piss me off.
I don't know. I missed it. Why don't you explain what you saw that made you so angry there?
First off, the comparison of discrimination against somebody based on their weight, comparing that to racial discrimination is, if I had the ability to be offended, that might do it. Like if I had fully grown adult emotions and the ability to empathize with other human beings.
Yeah,
that might be the first time I ever get triggered. But it's not like we ran around for 100 years enslaving black people. It's not like we made them poop in a different toilet or ride in a different train car or lynch them in the town square or falsely accuse them of raping a girl and To Kill a Mockingbird or whatever. Oh my God, that's terrible.
The struggles that obese Americans face are not anywhere comparable to what Black Americans have faced, and to sort of say that is absurd. So, you got a thought on that?
Well, when I look at her, I'm like, yes, America is not ready for your body, whether you would be a female or a male. That size is not accommodated in the airplane, in the theater.
Yeah.
And
that's a handicap that they face.
Also by her cardiovascular system, it cannot support all that either.
Is it a handicap that they face, or is it a handicap that they create?
Well, yes, you're right. It is depending on the circumstances that led to the supreme obesity. It's either something that they can't help, or it is something that they've done of their own. Whatever the way they eat, their diet, their lack of exercise. I mean, it is self-inflicted, but a handicap nonetheless.
Okay,
I blow my kneecap off, or I accidentally shoot myself and I sever my spine. I'm going to be handicapped. It doesn't really matter that it was self-inflicted. Yeah, a handicap.
Well, but I have a problem with saying that society is not ready for you, whereas I think the reverse is actually the truth. You're not ready for society. Your eating is so out of control that you're not fitting in the norms of what a human would fit.
Yeah.
Well put. The other thing that pissed me off about the last 30 seconds is that CNN just walked with a straight. How do they even put these reports together when they're in the editing room with a straight face? They go, no, that's not embarrassing. How would you like to be a fat activist? How would you like? They said she's a self-proclaimed fat activist. How would you like for your hobby to be? I'm going to go out there and I'm going to try and convince people being 400 pounds isn't a bad thing. Like this is you're not embarrassed.
Well, now, wait a second. Is that what she's doing as a fat activist, trying to convince people that being 400 pounds isn't a bad thing? Or is she just simply out there saying, stop being mean to us?
No. right? I don't think we have that explanation in depth in the material we have in front of us. But the last sentence she said before I hit pause was, yeah, I'm fat, and that's not a bad thing. Well, no, being overweight is not a bad thing. You know, I'm 20 pounds overweight. Pugs, you're probably 20 pounds overweight.
Oh, thank you,
Yeah.
James.
But we're not talking about fat people. We're talking about you, who is pushing the limits of what is essentially a land mammal, and how you can even go to the bathroom. Like, we're not talking about overweight people. We're talking about you, lady. You're 300 pounds plus. Like, you look like a beanbag with like Mr. Potato Head facial features just
Do
poking.
you not, when, and this is, look, haha, real funny, land mammal beanbag. Do you not on any level, like, think, you know, I'm kind of making fun of another human being here for really no reason? I mean, what are you doing?
Okay,
no. Fat girl,
There's
you
a difference, though. There's a difference.
her.
Again.
Little
I-
her, you have to dehumanize her.
I am making fun of her, but not for no reason. I'm making fun of her for a legitimate reason. I'm making fun of her because her lifestyle is unhealthy. She has made bad choices that do not deserve to be praised much or even soft pedaled, really. I do not want my kids to get whiff of this and be like, oh, that's all right. Give me the Twinkies.
Oh, okay, but okay, so I don't know if that's justification for you to attack her. You know, I mean,
She's spreading. She's
teach
a
your
nice
children.
person with good intentions who deserves her full complement of human rights, and no one deserves. I would never tell her these horrible, mean things to her face or in a form where I thought she would see it. I don't want to hurt her as a person, but these are bad, dangerous ideas. This is the biggest health crisis we have in America right now. I mean, whether it's guns or COVID, no, more people are dying from these conditions, cardiovascular issues. Just hang on. Look, you'll hate her a little more. Let me finish the last minute or so of this.
And I think the more that we use it as a neutral, as a descriptor, the less power it has.
Do you think that some of the discrimination for fat people happens through unconscious bias?
I think a lot of the biases against fat people are unconscious because they're never called out, because our society functions with fat phobia imbued in it.
Weight discrimination has real financial impacts. The average American woman is reportedly a size 16. But one study showed that women considered obese earned $5.25 less per hour than women considered normal weight.
Walking into a job interview as a fat person, I'm already at a disadvantage. My weight is a con, right? And regardless of if it's intentional or not.
But there is one thing that will be different if you do decide to pursue the job market. This new law.
Exactly.
Does that make you feel a little bit better?
For sure. This bill is so important because we're having this conversation, because we're talking about what it means to be a fat person existing in the world, that we are being reminded that our bodies should never be a barrier to anything.
Okay, so the new law says what? You can't not hire her because she's...
Businesses are not allowed to have standards when it comes to hiring employees that have anything to do with their height or weight or appearance. Yeah.
So Mops says Playboy's in trouble.
I think just go to Nevada, right?
Hooters is in trouble.
Right.
You know.
I mean, all of the I wasn't shocked to find out that people that are morbidly obese make $5 less per hour than people that are not. I mean, if I just think about the occupations of people making money, hustling has something to do with it. Moving quickly has something to do with your ability to, make money. If you're slower, then you're not going to kill as much and eat as you may eat more, but you're not going to kill as quickly. And so I wasn't really shocked that people that are morbidly obese make $5 an hour less. And I don't feel it's intentional. I feel it's the lack of production.
Think about the most entry-level jobs that we see out in the world every day. I don't know, maybe you go to a currency exchange and there's a person behind the desk there. Maybe you go to a Dollar General and there's a lady checking you out at the dollar. Think about the encounters you have with the people who do those jobs every day. How many of them are fit? How many of the, you know what I'm saying? I mean, it's like you don't see how many lawyers, how many powerful, successful female lawyers who work in beautiful office towers in downtown Dallas. How many of them are 300 pounds? I mean, so it doesn't shock me at all that, in the workplace, your body is a representation of who you are in general. If you're not taking care of your body, you're probably not taking care of all the other aspects of your life. And people who do take care of their body tend to be a little bit more driven, a little bit more successful. I mean, so yeah, it doesn't surprise me either to learn that obese people make $5 less. I mean, I think that being obese and allowing yourself to get to that point bespeaks a whole myriad of other issues that might be going on in your life. And what Emil said, a dude who is hustling, the dude who hustles out there every freaking day, man, that dude's probably like, ripped. that dude looks good. That's just.
Yeah, and I can't find the statistic. It's not in my head, but there's like it's only like 20% of the country exercises aerobically on a regular basis.
Yeah,
but like 80% of CEOs exercise aerobically on a regular basis. Like there's all kinds of stats that correlate that, and it's not that you're incapable of being a CEO if you're 320. It's the fact that the people who have the discipline to go to bed early because they have the foresight to wake up at 5 the next morning, and they actually have the ability to motivate themselves to do these things that other people don't want to do, that are tough but they have good consequences at the end of them. That relates well to the rest of the human experience, not just jogging, but also your job, also your education, also getting extra licenses or networking. How important is all that crap? So
you just reminded me of a study that I saw a couple of weeks back when you said about the aerobics and the CEOs who work out and all that stuff. How about this? The 1% class of the United States right now, those representing 1% of the economic wealth and all that stuff. The 1% class in America averages at least 7 meals per week that are freshly made. 7 meals a week that are either made, of fresh vegetables right in front of them, or, good meats, or stuff that was just killed, nothing processed, nothing fried, good meals, 7 times a week. The rest of the country, less than 4 times a week. I mean, so right there, that's a discrepancy. The more money you have, it seems to say you eat better. So when that leads to better nutrition, which leads to better overall habits and better overall health. The rest of us, the other 99%, we go through drive-throughs. The 1%, maybe they have a chef that's in the house making them just the absolute best, most nutritious, delicious things. Access to that kind of thing is also an economic issue. So, fat people don't have it good. Trust me, I'm one of them. I'm trying to get in shape. I think money will come after that.
This woman that I was saying very awful things about. Granted it is awful, but this stuff needs to be shouted down. These are bad ideas. She has a dad. You think her dad sees that CNN video and is beaming with pride? You think he's sharing that out with all his friends and his college roommate and some of his coworkers, or the guy who lives next door, or whatever? Like I think about, like, what if one of my daughters grew up to be a fat activist? That would be awful.
Well, I would hope you would be proud of one of your daughters, regardless of what they did, if they found their passion. Don't be an asshole dad, Yessie.
Well, to me, it seems like she's a bit self-unaware.
Yes, exactly. Thank you, Eve. Yes, she has no self-awareness. She doesn't realize. It's almost like, look, anybody who's heavy in modern society would love to be thin. If they could snap their fingers, they'd be thin. If she could snap her fingers, she'd be thin. But I think that she has battled this probably for so long. She's now in her own mind just facing the fact that she's going to always be fat. So now, now she has to exist in that reality. And that's where delusion creeps in. And I think that's what she has. I think she's deluded. And she's convinced herself that it's okay to be who she's become because it's so hard to change it.
See, and I think it's more, and you do not understand that you are taking advantage of things because of your size and inconveniencing others that you're around. I mean, that's the part of self-awareness I think that's missing. I mean, you're sitting there going, "Well, wait a minute. Society isn't treating me fairly and I'm not being compensated the way everybody else is, but at the same time you're taking up more space in society. You are spending more of the healthcare dollar. You are with your triple extra large shirt that sells for $5 using more material than the one that sells as a small for $5.
Yeah, they're paying for it. Come on, big and tall things. Those things they all cost $5 to $10 more.
No,
Nobody losing money off that.
but I mean, there is more material going out in a triple X than
Well,
is going out in a small.
no. You're right, but the real opportunity cost is this woman dying of some cardiovascular stroke at 39 instead of being a long living, productive, tax-paying citizen that is contributing to the GDP for an extra 2 or 3 decades. I know this all that boil down to dollars and cents. We're talking about a human being here, but in the macroeconomic sense, if the obesity problem in America is costing us in blown productivity, both on the individual level and for society as a whole, these are bad ideas all at every level. It's a bad idea for the person. It's a bad idea for the immediate community, for the country as a whole. These are bad, dumb ideas that need to be scouted out.
You said something that's important here, because I always like to mention this part of this issue, which is this is a distinctly American problem. This issue does not exist in other parts of the world. This is a luxury of being a superpower for 50 years. We don't have our lowest among us starving to death on the streets the way they do in Africa or Eastern European countries and stuff like that, because we're forward enough that we can just make processed bullshit food, right? Our poor people can just eat their entire lives bologna and processed cheese and potato chips and all the kind of stuff that they can get. So that's the thing. But now, James, you've never been out of the country, have you? I mean, other than Mexico, right? You've never been like to Europe or Asia or anything like that?
No. I am not a well-traveled man.
Now, he has, and so I have as well. So I'm going to see if he agrees with me on this. One of the first things that I noticed, and this would have first occurred in London, when I went to a restaurant and they served us food, and this isn't a fancy restaurant, this is like a little seaside town, where you stop for lunch after your sightseeing. I sat down in this nice little restaurant and they brought me my meal. The plates in other parts of the world are tiny. American plates hold so much more food. I was like, I couldn't believe the prices. The prices, the exchange rate. I'm like, my God, I'm going to get a whole lunch here for $4. And then they brought out about $4 worth of food, and I was like, wait, was that?
Yeah, the portions in America are definitely oversized relative to other countries and the amount of food that you get. And, I think obviously that is part of the obesity in America problem.
It's a luxury of success.
Right. You're eating more food, which ultimately means you're consuming more calories, and it's a counting calorie game. Regardless of what food you're eating, you still got to burn more than you eat, and we just don't do that well as a society, given that we are eating a lot of processed foods and things like you say. We can consume the calories without necessarily consuming the good stuff.
Do you think the new generation, do you think younger people are more fit? I know my kid is more health conscious, and my kid believes you're supposed to work out every day. He does some kind of an exercise every day. I wasn't raised that way. I mean, what do you think? Are your kids seemingly more health and fitness conscious than you were?
It seems like that there is more attention on certain foods. Like I remember when I was a kid, like, what was it? Kool-Aid, was something that, we would drink, or Tang, or any of those weird drinks that we would call sugary nowadays. Mm-hmm. It didn't seem like there was the sugar police out. Whereas today, it does seem that stuff is kind of like, I don't know that it's the best thing.
Well, also when we were kids, and James, I don't know if you had these. I think these might have been phased out right around the time you became conscious of the world. But they used to sell soda pop before 2-liter plastic bottles. They sold them in 8-packs, 8-pack glass bottles, and you could return the 8-packs, the empty glass bottles, to the store. And if you were a kid, you could get deposits. Do you remember that? I don't know if they had deposits.
Yeah, the glass bottles would be like 5 cents a piece or something like that.
I will tell you that for the first 15 years of my life, I drank an 8-pack of fully loaded Coca-Cola every day of my life. I never drank water. You know when you drank water? When you were outside playing baseball and you were thirsty and there was a hose nearby. That was the only time you drank water.
Hose water.
Yeah. In 1982, that's the only time I'm drinking. I'm not coming in from a hard day of playing or BMX bike riding, running the refrigerator and drinking a bottle of water. No, what am I doing? I'm making the Kool-Aid, or I'm drinking some super sugary sun tea, or I'm having one of those cold bottles of don't even get me started on diet soda back there. Diet soda back then tasted like absolute garbage. Ugh.
For sure. I mean, just thinking now, like back to when I remember when I first saw bottled water, and I was like, why would that sell? Like,
Right.
why would
Didn't get
somebody
it.
buy
Get it.
bottled water? Like,
No
it
idea.
made 0 sense to me.
Zero.
Like,
It comes
this
out of your
came out of the
faucet for
tap.
free. Yeah, it
Right.
comes out for free at your house. You can drink it anytime you want. Why are you going to 7-Eleven paying $1 for a bottle of water? Oh my God, it made no sense. Where you work, don't they have free water? Don't
Yeah.
they have water coolers? Don't you have
I
water
mean,
fountains?
My grandfather got so upset when the first case of bottled water came home.
don't
You
blame him.
thought that, like, we had just wasted, like, the family fortune because you had bought some bottled water.
Yeah, that was crazy. You were rich in my neighborhood if you had Hinckley and Schmidt. Like if you had one of those bottle bubblers in your house in like 1984, that's I consider you rich. Like, you were one of the rich kids. You're paying for water. Comes out of the faucet for free. But we didn't drink much. And that's the other thing. It's not like water was a big player in our lives back then. So I don't know what was going on there.
And then it even got more worse when, like, it went from plastic bottles to glass bottles. I'm like, so this whole presentation of sticking water in glass is just even less efficient and more wasteful.
What do you mean glass bottles of water? I don't know anything about. James, you know about glass bottles of water? I think a bottled water is always being plastic bottles.
No, there's like Voss.
That's
VOS.
club stuff. You don't drink that in real life. You drink.
Yeah, in
Pellegrino.
Evian's in glass bottles.
No, they're not.
Sure they are.
In the 80s, Evian and Perrier were in glass bottles. They're not.
Perrier is still in glass
Perrier
bottles.
is.
Well, that's a different kind of thing.
All right.
Evian was.
James, what you got?
All right. So when we talk about the obesity rate in America being something that no other country has to deal with, you're kind of right. When you rank the countries, and don't go Google this, just stick with me here. When you rank the countries by obesity rate, United States comes in technically at 11th, but that's a BS ranking because the 10 people above it are all micro states that are
Yeah. Like Somalians and not Somalians. Well, it's like Samoa, and then there's
Samoa, Tonga, Niue, Tuvalu, Marshall Islands, Palau, Cook Islands, Nauru.
It's funny. I just saw something on like CBS this morning, a couple of months back, about this island where it's the most obese island in the world, and there's only like 50 people on this island, and they're all like 600 pounds, and they don't know how this happened. Well, they do. They actually tell the story. I don't remember how it happened, but
Yeah, it's Nauru.
is that it? The country Nauru?
Yeah, and it's actually number one. It's the only country that has more than 60% obesity rate.
Yeah, everybody's super fat, and then they talk to the one dude who
There's
plays.
10,000 people there, so that means what 6,000 of them are.
No,
obese.
but it's isn't it like an American still, like there's an American influence there, like a military base or something or whatever, because there's this one kid, because they're good at football. They've actually had people that, like, went to play college football in America from this island nation.
Oh.
And they talk to the the most fit, biggest athlete in the little island, and he was the quarterback of the football team, and they put this dude on camera. And
Gigantic.
he's massive. He's like a quarterback. He's the size of a 1980s defensive end in the NFL. And he's playing quarterback because he's like the skinniest guy in the state or whatever it is. Yeah, Nehru, whatever it is. It's tragic what's going on there. And everybody has diabetes too. Everybody's got diabetes.
It's the insulin
It's
capital of the world.
sugar. It's the sugar. It's not
All right.
diabetes. They got the
So-
sugar.
So from the statistics, throw out the micro states.
Yeah.
There's the United States as the fattest country in the world as far as obesity rate goes. And then under that, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 countries from the same region. What is the second fattest part of planet Earth? It's several countries. So if you name any of them, you'll get it correct. But it's a region.
This is good. Okay. So this is going to be behind us, behind the United States, the second fattest.
Yeah. Now before you guess,
Nation
let me go ahead
Right.
and chum the water here because there's a couple of theories on why the United States is fat as hell.
Okay.
One of it is it's just a function of our wealth. That's what happens when
luxury.
you're so
Yeah.
wealthy. But then you can look at other countries. Norway is wealthy, but they're not fatties. And then you can say, well, maybe it's just white people. We're a majority white country, and no, there's not. Again, Norway, they're a white country. They're not fatties. Okay, well, maybe it's because we're a mixed country. Well, Brazil's mixed on the demographics similar to us, and they're not nearly as fat as we are. So this is such a hard answer. But what do you think the next region is?
I am going to go. I'm going to say South America.
E?
I would say up north.
What's up north?
Canada?
The North Pole?
Like
It's it's Diet America. So if
Canada's not bad.
Canada's just like America without the
Yeah.
minorities, basically.
I'm just thinking like, Pablo Escobar was a fat guy and you always see like fat Colombian guys with cigars. So I'm thinking maybe they got fat stuff down there too.
I'm gonna go North America, Canada.
Both of them are great guesses, but okay, so the United States fattest country, the next fattest country that's not a microstate. I'll go in order.
We established that America was already the
Okay,
fattest.
but not.
You just wasted your bullet on the guess.
All right, ready?
Yeah.
After the United States, it's Kuwait,
Oh,
Jordan,
okay.
Saudi Arabia,
Interesting.
Qatar,
Interesting.
Libya, Turkey, Egypt, Lebanon, United Arab Emirates.
Wow. Why would that be, James? You better have a fun fact for us here.
It really just comes down to per capita income. It really just comes down to the second any human being, it doesn't matter your nationality, your culture, your religion, your race, your skin tone, what kind of music you listen to. Once you can afford food, you have the humans just have it naturally built in them to stuff your fat face. That's what it comes down to. So that's part of it. That has to be part of it because these are all countries that have a high per capita income. But then the counter argument to that is, again, the countries like Norway, France, these places have high per capita income, Switzerland, and they're pretty low on the scale. So why these guys and not those guys? Discuss.
Well, that was the question that I had for you. So why would the second? You got America, we're the fattest over here. So the second fattest would be that region of the world. Kuwait, obviously, there's a lot of money. Isn't there a wealth disparity though? I mean, are those wealthy per capita? Does that trickle down enough?
That's a great point because Kuwait has an absurdly high, like higher than America as far as like their per capita income, if I'm not mistaken. But that's because they only have like 28,000 people there, and
everybody in
1,000 of them
Kuwait,
are billionaires.
like everybody in Kuwait's a millionaire. Like that's like a thing. I know Kuwait is different, but didn't you say like Saudi Arabia,
Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Libya.
I don't necessarily think great wealth with those places. Go ahead.
Well, and I don't buy the wealth is necessarily driving the weight because Asia, there are a lot of really wealthy Asians.
Yeah.
But their body frame, they're not tall enough to be driving that obese train.
Uh-oh. Here we go. Well, what do you mean they're not tall enough? What are you saying? Now here we go.
Well, they don't weigh enough.
Because Chinese people to you are very small, is what you're saying.
Right. Their
Well, have
their
you not seen a
body,
sumo
their
wrestler in Japan?
their actual body structure is smaller.
Yeah.
It's a well-known fact with medical equipment
Yeah.
that when the medical equipment was made, a lot of times the Asian, like, the foreign medical equipment was for a structure that was a lot smaller, and Americans had trouble a lot of times fitting in their equipment.
Well, that's a fun game, James, that we need to develop and play. Of course, that's what we're doing now. We're inventing games and bits. How about that game where we talk about things that are true that just sound racist, but they're true?
Yeah, right.
There are actual differences between, people of different ethnicities and stuff like that. For instance, oh boy, here we go. We're going to get in hot water. My mom said something once. I know we're getting off track here, but what the hell? My mom said something once, and I was like, "Oh my God, that is like super racist." Sometimes like you make fun of your parents because they say something that's maybe from a different era, and she fought me. Now my mom's very smart, and my mom's like, "What are you talking about? That wasn't racist. That's true." So I looked it up, and she was right. I'm like, "Oh my God!" So what my mom said was that Asian people have a different way of processing alcohol than non-Asian people. And basically, she was making a joke about, they get drunk easier. And, and I thought that sounded like, them Asians, they get drunk really. So I looked it up. It's a real thing. It's a very real thing that Asian people from that part of the world, their body processes alcohol differently than people in this part of the world, and it affects them more. And throughout time, people have been like, Chinese people can't hold their drink. That's why they like opium so much. Go ahead. I'm sorry. It's not.
No, I had no idea that was like a real thing, but I believe it.
Yeah.
How do you explain? Is there something going on with the Indians? I mean, on our side, the Native American Indians, because their relationship with alcohol has been a little more strained than that of other ethnicities, black, white, Mexican, everything in between.
I don't know. The Mexicans take it pretty hard with the alcohol too, don't they? Don't people like think of the Mexican as? Well, I'm Irish, so we always think of the Irish before. There's always
it's not that different than Irish, bro. So
See,
I'm
and I always
Irish. How drunk am I?
I always associated that to body size. Like, a Hispanic person is generally smaller. An Asian person is generally smaller in frame and stature. And so I assumed, like, a drink going into a smaller person versus a drink going into a larger person, you would have more of an intoxicating effect on the smaller body versus large body. I didn't necessarily believe it was the way that the alcohol was processed. I believe the body was having to process more alcohol.
So I just had to look this up because I knew it was a very easy fact to find here. So do either of you guys know what the Mayo Clinic is or the Cleveland Clinic?
Yeah,
Sure.
Okay, those are two pretty good sources for information when it comes to, the body and health and all that stuff.
yeah, they made.
So here, let's take the Cleveland Clinic. Here's what the Cleveland Clinic says about alcohol intolerance syndrome and how it affects on people of Asian descent. It's a real thing, is my point. Okay, here's what they say. People of Asian descent are more likely to have the inherited genetic mutation that causes alcohol intolerance syndrome. They develop the condition at much higher rates. Anyone can have the enzyme problem that causes alcohol intolerance, but because of the rates of Asian descent, all right, there you go. There you have it, right? That's a pretty good source, Cleveland Clinic. That makes sense. I'm like, ah. So when people say, Asians, they can't handle their... I jumped down my mom's throat. I was like, you can't say that. You can't say, and then I looked it up and I'm like, I'm sorry, Mom, you were right.
True.
But there are all kinds of examples of this. Like, there are all kinds of things that are true about certain ethnic groups that sound racist. So I'd like to compile them. Maybe we can play a game. I thought that'd be fun. I wanted to mention that.
I'm not saying anything about fast twitch or slow twitch muscles. It has been my observation that's the end of many careers.
My grandpa used to call it the dancing muscle.
Oh my God, Grandpa! God,
yeah, Johnny, they can dance that way because they got an extra muscle in their leg. And I'm like, I don't think that's true, Grandpa. I think biologically we're pretty much. No, it's the dancing muscle. I'd be like, okay, all right.
Hey,
Well,
so, dude,
yeah.
does the word Denisovan mean anything to you two?
Denisovan?
Yeah, Denisovan.
No.
So it's sort of the Far East Asian version of Neanderthals, and where our European ancestors were bouncing around in the Swiss Alps or whatever as cavemen, we interbred with Neanderthals, and that's what gave us some of our distinct
Like where
features.
the Urals meets the Volga, where the East and the West come together, where the Asian man and the Eastern. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Go ahead, continue.
So, Denisovans are another subspecies that's a cousin of the humanoids. Like we came from the same predecessor, but they were a different branch on the evolutionary tree. And so this is like since we were in college, these things have been discovered. These Denisovans, then they're sort of like the Neanderthals of the Far East, and some of these different traits that the Far East Asians have. People are starting to associate that in what's the Pacific Islanders, maybe even the Aboriginal Australians, is because of their mixing with the Denisovans, and we didn't mix with the Denisovans, and sub-Saharan Africans didn't really mix with the Denisovans. And when I say we, I mean generally people of European descent. So maybe Denisovans had problems digesting alcohol as well, and that was one of the traits they passed down. But I don't know. I'm kind of really getting into this this whole evolutionary situation as an explanation for the differences of the race, because that seems to be one of the questions whenever we talk about race. Like, why are we so different? It goes back 40,000 years, maybe.
I don't know. Are we so different? I mean, I don't know. I don't think the races are different. I think the question should be, why do we not like each other?
Well, how can we? Well, look, when we process alcohol different. That's what I mean, different. I don't mean
yeah. No, I know that. Like, but I mean, I think those are outliers. I think those individual traits that can be associated to specific ethnic groups, I think those are outliers. I think 99% of the stuff we're all just the same. We have the same insides. You cut us open.
Oh, absolutely.
But there are some outliers, and I find those to be fascinating. Somebody in the chat room said something that is also true.
Stars 3-0. That's what they said in the chat room. This is true.
It's Hugh Morris who said Asians actually turn red and flushed if they don't have the gene. Yeah, they do. They do. Their faces turn red. It's like that's how you know if they're like one of the yeah. Take a sip of wine and all of a sudden the girl sitting across from you looks like she got a sunburn. It's like, oh no, it's a real thing, and I'm fascinated by that because it sounds racist. It sounds like you're saying, it's like with the Irish. Oh, the Irish all they do is get drunk and fight. Well, all they do is get drunk because nobody would hire them. So the unemployment rate among the Irish, the early Irish immigrant to America, was really big. It was really high. And so they would sit around and drink. And the fights were just a byproduct of being drunk. You know what I mean? I mean, the fight, it's not like if the alcohol wasn't there, they're not necessarily an aggressive, brutal people. It's just that their culture... none of the men had jobs. None of the men had jobs until they created a police force, and then they just needed to hire a bunch of thugs, and that's how the Irish became in control of America's urban police forces.
So are you saying that the reason that they didn't have jobs was because they were drinking?
No, they were drinking because you could not hire. For the first 20 years of major Irish immigration in this country, you were not allowed to hire Irish. There were signs that said Irish need not apply. The Irish, the economy and the way businesses ran in this country were still at that time wholly controlled by British economic interests. And the Irish immigrant to America was considered the absolute lowest of the low. You couldn't hire them.
Lower than Italian?
Much lower than Italian, yeah. The Italians were marginalized because they didn't speak English. The Italians and the Polish and those immigrants, they were marginalized because it was more difficult for them to assimilate quickly because of the language barrier. The Irish, there's no reason that the Irish shouldn't have been assimilated right away other than the fact that everybody hated them. That they were like the most hated people, and it was because most people rallied around the British, who we had stood up to for 300 years. Mm-hmm. So that's what that whole thing is. But yeah, the Irish became cops. The straight out of Central casting sort of image of Chief O'Reilly, or Batman had Chief O'Hara. It was always like an Irish cop. Irish became so associated with cops because there were no police forces in this country. We take for granted that there were always local police. No, there went until the late 1890s and early 1900s did municipalities start hiring people to act as security for the city. That's the originators of police forces. They were security. And they hired a bunch of Irish dudes because they were known to fight. They were brutal. They needed the work. And that's how they became cops. Now, the Italians and the ones who couldn't speak English weren't even getting these opportunities, so they turned to crime. But that's why the Italians have the underworld and the Irish control crooked politics and police.
Nice to know.
That easy.
Trying to run out the clock. I'm tired. E and I, we got to wake up real early. We got a hell day tomorrow, huh, E?
I mean, yeah, at least we got it figured out.
So we're not going to Old 95 tomorrow or Old 75 tomorrow for the double podcast.
I want to try to figure it out, but I don't know that we're going to be able to.
He is like, okay, so have you ever been at like a really great party and everybody's drinking and you've been there since 7 o'clock at night and it's now 4:45 in the morning and you and like, maybe the last 7 people who you've been drinking and joking with for the last 5 hours, you're sitting around the table and it's now Sunday morning and now the sun is coming up and you guys are still partying because there's still beer and somebody says, we should all go to Six Flags. Yeah, and you make these plans where you're going to just rally. Let me just go home and change, and then and then everybody goes home and goes to sleep, and nobody goes to Six Flags. That's what E is doing tomorrow with this old 75 thing. We're no way we're going to make that. There's just no way with Friday traffic. We got to move everybody on the dock. We got a whole bunch of dock work to do tomorrow. Then he's got to be back up here at 3 o'clock to pick up his son and handle his son.
What is this dock work? You work at the port of New Orleans or something? What's going on?
He has upgraded his slip to like, I guess, a fancy dancy slip for his yacht out there on Lake Louisville. And
it's not a fancy dancy slip, and it's not a yacht.
We got to move.
But yes, it is a bigger dock.
Does it have a bedroom?
He upgraded.
No, it does not have a bedroom.
Bathrooms are on a lot of boats.
There's no, like on this particular dock, they actually have a bathroom and a shower.
It's got everything. It's the nice dock. It's the nice one.
I couldn't get into this dock early, like, because you had to wait for somebody to fall out. And so now they've
the
fallen
most desired docks. We're moving on up. Now we're over by Steve. He's another yachtsman. He's a friend of ours over there. His slip is over by there. It's gonna be.
Well, we have the same boat.
Yeah.
Because, like, he bought the same boat after I took him out on my boat. He liked it.
So when does boat season start?
Tomorrow.
Really Memorial Day, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, but like tomorrow, I think there'll be a lot of people that'll be getting their boat ready for the weekend.
All right.
And then Mother's Day, it'll kind of slow down. And then I think the following week, it'll be busy again.
Parker family should make plans for 4th of July with us, right, E? Well, look at me. I shouldn't be inviting people to a fictional 4th of July gathering, but...
Yeah, we'll have to figure out what we got going on the 4th.
Yeah, it's always a big event out there.
Mm-hmm.
So not Old 75 tomorrow.
I'm saying no. You're going to come all the way back from Lake Louisville, all the way back to Highland Park to pick Dom up at 3 or 3:30 or whatever it is. Then at 4 o'clock, you want to head back up 75 on a Friday, heading out of downtown at 4 o'clock and fight that traffic all the way up to Old 75. I don't know. It seems like a lot. I mean, can it be done? Yeah.
Dude, it's only like Spring Valley and 70.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. He acts like it's like in Oklahoma.
It's a well, no, guys. Fridays at that time, I pick up my kid every Friday. I know what that traffic is like. That is a friggin' grind. But, it can be done. It can absolutely be done. But it is a grind on Fridays at that time.
Yeah, well. And the AC's kind of a little shaky on the truck. I don't know what's going on now. Now, all of a sudden, because I need to drive the truck, some of the stuff's starting to go wrong with it.
Right. But you know what you will get to see? Right there at North Park. I don't know what street it is, but there's an overpass. You'll get to see the crazy Nazis who gather every Friday.
Oh, no, they're the Trumpers that say that the election was stolen.
Guy had a swastika out there a couple weeks ago. Yeah, he did. Yeah. And they saw it. He's like, is that a swastika? I'm like, oh my God, it is. They're just out in the open now.
They hang over it. What is that? The Southwestern Bridge over there, a 75?
Well, both. There seems to be two groups. There's this is right at North Park Mall. And one group stands on one side for the cars that are heading north, and then there's another group who are on the other side for the cars that are heading in.
Well, like on Park or something? On Park Lane?
Yeah, it's like Parkland and 75. Every Friday they gather out there. It's a crazy scene. It's funny. And you get people like, you have obviously the traffic is really slow. And you want to get involved in some public discourse because a lot of people have their windows down and they're yelling things and people are yelling back things. And then you're stuck in traffic underneath them. And I'm like, yeah, this is why I never say anything because I don't, you know what I mean? It's like you're
They'd send down a loogie.
Right,
You never know.
or I don't know. Something crazy could happen. So just ignore them, because you might get stuck right there. You might get stuck right underneath them when they'll have plenty of time to come on down and, I don't know, be crazy.
How hard is it to get laid if you have a swastika tattoo?
Ask your friend, the Aryan princess, because apparently not that hard at all, James.
Well, she doesn't have a swastika tattoo.
But she was laying guys with swastika tattoos. She is the answer to your question.
Well, she is not the metric by which any rule should be measured. But I would just think like it's hard enough, to convert, to close the deal on a date, and then the swastika shows up. Yeah, you gotta expect dude's taking off his shirt. The chick sees a swastika tattoo and stops. Right?
Wow.
And like, don't you regret it immediately?
Well, James, I think that any girl that you, Emil, or I would be with, yes, would stop right away. But no, I don't think that that's a clear-cut thing across the board. I think there's a lot of dumb chicks out there who, one, might not even recognize what it is, and two, would just be like, yeah, well, her dad's been saying shit for years, so she's used to tuning that kind of stuff out. You know what I mean?
But it does narrow your available window of women who would be willing to sleep with you. It's got to be.
Some women are Nazis. Like some women are down with
no,
that.
but generally speaking, having a swastika tattoo is a cock blocking yourself move.
I would think it's certainly a job blocking move.
Well, I would agree with that. Like, I think that tattoos will eliminate you from positions. Thinking, though, that if you were in the heat of the moment and you unrobed and you had like a tattoo, would that stop? I don't know. I don't know if I would like, okay, I saw a girl with a swastika and because I saw the swastika, I would stop.
You hire a lot of people for things. Under any circumstance, would you hire someone with a swastika to do anything other than murder the family of your rival?
I would not hire them in a customer service position.
Yeah, it's a bad look. That's not.
It's funny that you say that because there was a time when people had tattoos that you would have to have them put cover up on them, at the front desk, or you would have to have them wear, effectively like sleeves like they wear in the NFL to cover up tattoos. And that wasn't what I would say, what would be the word that you would do against somebody? Not
discriminate,
racist, but you weren't. Yeah, discriminate. I guess it was a form of discrimination that was allowed.
Well, it is. It's judgment. Bring it full circle. So we can discriminate against someone because of their body if it's a swastika tattoo, but not if you look like a pile of chili.
No.
Well, I think you can discriminate against anybody that has a tattoo.
Stop. This is where we take shortcuts because we like everything to be an absolute. There's a whole lot of nuance in what you just said. The reason and the choice behind the swastika is why the guy with the swastika tattoo is not getting hired. I don't know that there is a hate-filled message between the fat girl and her love with Cheetos. You know what I mean? I mean, you're not hiring the guy because of
They're
a
not
swastika.
the same thing.
They're not at all. You're not hiring the guy because he's got a swastika. You're hiring the guy because of what the swastika represents and what he obviously believes in.
But the philosophical underpinning is the same. Can you discriminate? Can you choose not to hire someone based on you don't like this aspect of that person? And of course, that should be.
Of course, you should be able to. Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
I think facial tattoos are something that people will discriminate against, whether they're honest about it or not. It's a different thing. But if you see somebody and they have a facial tattoo or a number of tattoos on their face, I think you would be inclined to say, no, I'm not going to hire that person as my front desk receptionist or my greeter. That's not an image that I want to take the first step forward.
This is this is the very same conversation that we've been having for 30 years in this country. Just took a different form before. It used to be, the baker, the baker in the small Ohio town who tells the gay couple that she doesn't want to make the cake that has the two guys going down on each other, and then all of a sudden she's got to be run out of business because she's an absolutely terrible person who hates gays. We've been having that conversation. This is the same kind of thing. It's too easy to jump to a conclusion. You should, basically what I'm saying is that you shouldn't be I agree that people should be allowed to discriminate who they do business with as a business owner. If someone doesn't want to do business with somebody who does things in their life that they disagree with, and as a private business owner, I think they should be able to say, I don't want to do business with you. However, I recognize that the problem comes here when, they used to use race for that. No black people allowed, because we choose that we don't want to do business with people with that skin color. I think you have to be a little bit more, I think you have to look at it more. But if you don't want to make a cake for a gay couple, I don't think that makes you a terrible person. I think it makes you someone who's open and willing to limit their business opportunities. It's bad business. That's what I see it as. But if because you're a Christian, but we've been destroying businesses for 30 years of people who do that. I may not agree with their, Christian values or whatever. And they very well may not like gay people. But that's not what it's about. It's just about the cake they were asked to make offends their sensibilities, and therefore I don't think a business owner should be forced to do something that offends their sensibilities, if that makes any sense. But it's kind of like the same thing about being discriminating against. It's a very nuanced thing. We got to look at each case individually and figure out what's really going on here.
But if you found that a business owner decided not to hire somebody because they had several facial tattoos, would you hold that against them?
The business owner? No.
Yeah. Would you find that to be discrimination?
I think if I'm a business owner and somebody comes in looking for a job and I think they look like a dirtbag and I don't want them working at my phone store in the strip mall, I should be allowed to not hire them because I don't like the way they look. I shouldn't be forced to hire people, every dreg, that comes off the street if I'm a business owner. I just think I should, look, well, that's how they didn't hire black people. Look, that's different. We have to look at these things individually. I'm just talking about.
Okay, so let's follow that one step further. All right, so you think that you don't have to hire necessarily a person who's decided to tattoo their face.
Tattoo face guy. I don't want to hire him.
You don't have to hire him. And he did that in one particular setting, and he disfigured his face in that way.
Bad choices.
But now we have a person that's eaten themselves, like James said, from 250 pounds all the way to 400 pounds, never stopped from 250 to 400. And do you think now that you should be allowed not to hire that person as a 400-pounder to sit at your front desk because you don't think that is also a good first impression?
Yeah, that's entirely what I believe. I believe that I shouldn't be forced to hire a front desk girl who is, extremely heavy.
And in that instance, who do you think is more derelict in their lack of, not giving a crap about what they look like? The guy that went for the one-time tattoo or the person that trailed from 250 to 400?
Well, look, the bottom line is I'm hiring people to represent my business. So I don't really even need to consider that. All I need to consider is what is standing before me. And here are two representations of things I do not want being my brand. Yeah, James, you were jumping in.
No, I just thought Emil said that really well about that's your whole brand.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I was just gesturing in support. Yes, I second that. I co-sign that.
All right, looks like we're done. James, anything else? Anything else?
Yeah, Stars have let them come back a little bit. It's 3-2 Dallas.
Holy crap.
What's happening? What's the series at?
It's tied 2-2. They're playing in Dallas tonight. Stars have got 9 shots on goal. Seattle 19. Stars up 3-2 with about 10 minutes left in the second. So we're about halfway.
Thank you, Golden.
Point in the game.
All right, very good. I was tied up with NFL stuff. You know, the schedules were released tonight. I don't know how. Neither of you guys are NFL nerds.
Yeah, I am. I saw that the Cowboys and the Bills are going to be playing.
Yeah. Are they playing here or in Buffalo?
You know, I did not pay attention to that.
Well, I would think,
Because either way, I'm going to go.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. You got to take Dom to Buffalo, right?
Yeah, one or the other, Cowboys or here.
That sounds great. Bills this year. I know I went to the Bears and Cowboys last year. That was an incredible time. My kid loved it. So yeah, you guys will have a good time. I went through my team schedule, and we're going 12-5. James is gone.
12-5.
Isn't that what you do though when you look at the schedule? You're like, we can beat them. We can beat, like, sight unseen. I don't know anything about the Commanders. I don't know what the Bucks have done. All I know is that Baker Mayfield's their quarterback. That's a win. You know what I mean? That's what schedule day's about. You make these absolutely absurd proclamations about win-loss records. 12-5. Yes, I looked at the schedule and I legitimately thought the Bears could go 12-5. Now they've got a last place schedule, so that helps. You know, there's a lot, and they've improved a lot. You know, so I don't know. They're playing a bunch of last place teams that maybe haven't improved to the degree of my team. You guys, the Buffalo Bills, you're eternally stuck with those first place schedules. You guys play tough teams.
Yeah, I mean, it just gets to the point now where I look every year and I'm like, okay, we're going to have a tough schedule because we had a good team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. There goes Z. There goes James. There is no show tomorrow, folks. No high noon show tomorrow. I apologize. But, this weekend I'll probably be doing things live. We'll pop in and cover some, if any, God forbid, any terrible news happens. We like to do that from time to time. Just click subscribe there. If you're watching on YouTube, follow us on Facebook. Pugs Moran on Twitter, all of that stuff. What else? What else do we need to be discussing here? A little now. Things are going good. Things are go. I got nothing else. I'm tired. Oh, it's so hot. Oh my God, it's so hot. All right, I love you guys. We'll see you. We'll see you over the weekend. I'll probably pop on. If not, Monday at noon for high noon. Bye.
On a never-ending quest.